Hello and welcome to another episode of our From the Helm series with Bell Financial Group, live here at the ASX Midcaps Conference for this September 2025. I'm Grady Wulff, Senior Market Analyst with Bell Financial Group. Argenica Therapeutics, ASX AGN, is developing novel neuroprotective therapeutics to reduce brain damage after stroke and other devastating brain injuries. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Argenica's CEO and Managing Director, Liz Dallimore. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Great.
Now, for our investors who may not know the story of Argenica, can you tell us about the company and the amazing things you've been up to?
Yeah, so we are a neurology clinical stage drug development company. So our lead drug asset has actually spun out of a research institute in Perth, the Paraneuroscience Research Institute. And we are fortunate that it's had over a decade of what we call preclinical research on this lead drug candidate. So we know a lot preclinically about how the drug works, how well it's working, the safety of the drug. So we spun the technology out. We listed the company in June 2021, and we've progressed through that clinical development. And most recently, we have just released results on our phase 2 clinical trial.
Yeah, speaking about those phase 2 results, I do want to get to them. The ARG007. Can you please outline what the drug is, how it works, and what results you've seen?
Yeah, so it is what we call a neuroprotective drug. So this means it has the ability to protect brain cells after injury. So our lead indication is what we call acute ischemic stroke. So these are strokes that are caused by clots in blood vessels in the brain.
Okay.
Ischemic strokes make up around 85% of all strokes. The other types of strokes are hemorrhagic strokes, which are bleed on the brain. So really sort of focusing on that larger market.
Yeah.
In terms of what the drug is doing, is it's actually protecting brain cells from the acute cause of the brain injury. So when someone has a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, there's a process that happens in the brain known as exocytotoxicity. A little bit of a hard one to get your mouth around. And so what this means is that when the brain is injured, it releases a neurotransmitter known as glutamate. And this causes calcium to flood into brain cells, and that is the thing that causes them to die. So our drug is very much targeting that calcium influx and stopping that start of that brain injury. And protecting the brain and, hopefully leading to functional improvements for patients.
That is amazing. Are there any competitors in the space right now and are drugs available on the market yet?
Yeah, so there are no neuroprotective drugs on the market. It is a kind of like the holy grail of neurology is to find a neuroprotective drug for stroke, for traumatic brain injury, for concussion, those sorts of things.
So which is huge in sport right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are really at the forefront. So there's only we're sort of really at the same stage as our nearest competitors. So we've a Spanish company that's finished a phase 2 clinical trial. They've just done a deal with Merck, so a big pharma company. We've obviously finished our phase 2 and a Canadian company that is in phase 2 at the moment. So the race is on and we're up there. But it's interesting, when I speak to kind of really global key opinion leader neurologists, they see neuroprotection very much as a bit like chemotherapy in oncology. So it won't just be one drug that a patient gets. It'll be kind of a cocktail of neuroprotective drugs that all work in slightly different ways to give the patient the best possible outcomes following stroke.
Now, you did mention you have finished that phase 2 trial. We always love to hear results and what you hope to achieve versus the outcomes that came through.
Yeah, so a phase 2 trial in neurology is the first time that you take a drug actually into patients. So our phase 1 clinical trial was in healthy volunteers, really to look at the safety in healthy people before you put it into patients, so in this case into stroke patients. So what we were really doing is trying to see if the drug is safe. So in a phase 1 trial, you're dealing with healthy people. I think our average age of the volunteers was 34. We're moving into stroke patients. Average age was 70. They've got a lot of comorbidities. So really needed to show that the drug was safe. And then what we're doing is we're signal searching. Is there a patient population that the drug potentially works better in? And really just gathering huge amounts of information on how the drug is working in this patient population to design the best trial moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you do have $10.5 million in cash.
Yeah.
What does that runway provide you, and how does it fund you towards the phase 2B trial?
Yeah, so we've got 10.5 mil in cash as of the last quarter. We'll have another nice R&D tax incentive rebate coming in the order of around $4 million. So we have seen an efficacy signal in our phase 2 clinical trial. So that's really exciting. And it's in patients that have what we call poor collateral blood flow. So these are the most at-risk patients of having the poorest outcomes post-stroke. So if our drug is going to work anywhere, it's this group that we really want it to work in. So, and that patient group makes up around sort of 30 to 40% of patients have had these large strokes with large clots in large vessels. So it's given us a signal. So the trial's done exactly what we want it to do.
Perfect.
We'll now start digging into all the data that we've got and see if we can see any other signals, anything else interesting that's coming through from the data. And then really start planning for that next stage of clinical development.
Definitely in a really exciting time for the company at the moment. What is the long-term strategy for Argenica? Obviously, we see different companies in this space either partner with someone, be taken by the big farmers. What's the outlook and what do you see for the company moving forward?
Yeah, so we are in partnering discussions, and now that we have this sort of rich data from our phase 2 clinical trial, that will make it even easier to continue those discussions. We ultimately want to partner with a pharma company. So as I mentioned before, one of our competitors has done a deal with Merck. It really is a sign and indication that big pharma is coming into neurology and they're interested in this space, which is great. So we'll continue those discussions. We are under CDA with a number of pharma partners. So once we do all that sort of further analysis of the data and we can package it all up, then we'll go pretty hard on that partnering to fund the next stage of the development.
Yeah, it's great to see Big Pharma is looking in this area. And that's always a good thing for these companies that are working in this space. How do you see ARG-007, your lead drug candidate, playing out in the market over the next 5 years as a leader, as a in-hospital use, as over-the-counter? What do you see? Obviously not over-the-counter, but with pharmacies, what do you see?
Yeah, so in drug development, there's sort of there's kind of two things we look at. We look at, clinical trial design and how can we make sure that we are developing the best clinical trial to give the drug the best chance of seeing efficacy within that trial. So, but that can be quite different from the commercial opportunity, especially in sort of neurology and stroke in particular. So what we'll do is try to make sure that we're really designing a trial that we can see efficacy in the right patient group to get the drug approved. That will be essentially the label on the trial, but then we'll expand that out commercially. So it'll be used more broadly. So ideally in ambulance into every single patient that's suspected of having a stroke. Also a traumatic brain injury, for example, as well. So so that's sort of really the vision and the mission of the company.
With the drug candidate, is it an injectable? Is it orally? How does it work?
So it's a intravenous injection at the moment. So for the phase 2 clinical trial, patients that came into the emergency department had a 10-minute IV infusion. So really easy to administer in terms of standard of care. Looking beyond that to sort of more chronic dosing, in particular in, say, concussion, for example. We're looking at other routes of administration. So we're doing a bit of work on nasal delivery at the moment. So using a much easier to use nasal spray.
Definitely. That's amazing. It's really good to see that it's diverse as well. It's not just one shot wonder kind of thing.
No, exactly.
What other indications are in the Argenica portfolio that you're working on?
Yeah, so we announced to the market our intention to take the drug into a clinical trial in traumatic brain injury. So this is looking at patients that come into emergency department, quite similar to stroke, that have a more moderate to severe traumatic brain injury. So we're doing a lot of work at the moment. We've formed a clinical advisory committee. There's a lot of work that goes on around biomarkers. So this is where you can sample blood from patients and actually look at certain things and changes of things in the blood that actually indicate the severity of brain injury. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes in looking at that, including looking at opportunities around non-dilutive funding to actually fund that clinical trial. We're doing a lot of work in hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. So this is a rare pediatric condition where blood flow is restricted typically during childbirth to infants. So it is a rare pediatric condition. We have orphan drug designation. We're doing larger animal studies. We've just recently been at a conference and had some engagement with the FDA. So we've got a clearer pathway of how that might go into the clinic as well.
Talking to the FDA early is always a good thing as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what can investors expect from Argenica over the next 12 months on a news flow front?
Yeah, so we'll be releasing to the market the post hoc analysis that we're doing. So really focusing on looking at, say, functional outcome assessment, any other signals that we're seeing, and an indication of sort of anything around the dosing of the drug. So that'll all come out. We're also working closely with an AI company that's spun out of Oxford University called Brainomics, and they have an amazing AI tool that can actually pull out a lot more information around the imaging that we collected during the phase 2 clinical trial. So this will tell us a lot more about sort of where the drug is working, specifically in the brain as well. So that will be fantastic. And then we'll start having a lot more discussions with the FDA. We've got we're currently on clinical hold with the FDA while we undertake a few more studies for them, and then we'll go to them with our phase 2 data as well, and really set out a plan to sort of the next stage of the clinical development. So there's quite a lot going on, especially in the next 6 months. There'll be a lot of news flow around, sort of post phase 2 data and the plans for the company moving into phase 2B.
Liz, you'll be a very busy lady, and what an exciting time to hear such a story and the outlook for a company like this doing wonders in the healthcare space. Liz, thank you for joining us from the Helm, and thank you for watching that episode of From the Helm live here at the ASX Midcaps Conference. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did filming it. If you did, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all market commentary, analysis, insights, and of course exclusive interviews like this one.